Hey everybody, and welcome to my review of the LEGO Ninjago Cole's Elemental Earth Mech. This is set number 71806 and it comes with 235 pieces and is recommended for ages 7 and up. We're going to kick off this review by taking a look at the minifigures that come in the set, starting with Cole. And I think this is a really good looking minifigure. He has a lot of detail. I really like the orange and black design LEGO decided to go with here as it matches the mech he comes with perfectly. He's also got a lot of printed detail on his chest and legs. And I'm a really big fan of the mask that they decided to go with here and how it's dual molded again in that orange and black. It looks really solid. Making our way to the back of Cole here, you can see he's got a relatively solid back print as well. I do wish this minifigure came with a little bit of arm printing. I think having some orange on the arms would have really made it pop. But again, overall, I think this is a relatively solid looking minifigure and I think it's a great addition to this set. I also forgot to mention that I do like the mask face print that is included with this set to give the effect of Cole's face being completely covered up. Here's what the mask face print looks like without the headpiece completely covering his face. And this figure does come with a second facial expression depicting Cole without a mask at all. Here's what Cole looks like while wearing the mask without the face print, and he comes with the gold katana as an accessory. The next minifigure we're going to be taking a look at is called the Wolf Mask Warrior. I do like the colors with this figure. With the blue and purple, it kind of reminds me of a wild berry Pop-Tart. And just like with Cole, I do feel like this figure has a relatively good chest and leg print. But in my opinion, where this figure really shines is in the dual molded wolf mask. And I really like the mold of this mask, especially with the hood in the back there. It really gives the effect of this minifigure is wearing a mask. As well as the overall detail of the mask itself, I think it's a really solid design and I think LEGO did a good job pulling it off. Turning the minifigure all the way around, you can see that it has a relatively solid back print as well. I said it in my last LEGO Ninjago review and I'll say it again here, I feel like Ninjago has some really solid minifigure designs. And if you want to see me do more LEGO Ninjago reviews, be sure to let me know in the comments below and like the video and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss them. Removing the wolf mask, you can see that this figure does come with a face print as well as a silver sword as an accessory. And surprisingly, this figure comes with a second facial expression. With both of the minifigures out of the way, we're now ready to talk about Cole's Elemental Earth Mech, which just like the Cole minifigure, it is primarily decked out in orange and black, and it comes with a really big hammer as an accessory, and surprisingly, you're able to pose this mech without it toppling over due to the weight of the hammer, which I thought was going to be a problem when I bought this set, but I'm happy to say you can pose the mech in a wide variety of poses while holding the hammer and it won't fall over. There's this really nice printed piece found directly in the middle of the mech, and as we make our way down the arm of the mech, I do like the overall design of it. Especially with the transparent orange piece there, I think that looks really good, and I assume it's meant to represent lava or hot rock. I also like the design of the fingers of this mech and how they have a curve to them to represent a shovel. I don't know, just kind of adds to the earthy feel of the mech in my opinion. There's nothing special about the back of this mech. It looks kind of messy in my opinion, and I wish they could have tidied it up just a little bit. This mech does come with a hammer as a weapon, and I think overall the design is simple but effective to what it needs to be. And the hammer does fit rather securely in the hands of the mech. This is thanks to the use of a black Technic pin that connects to the mech's hand. And the hammer feels relatively sturdy once it's in place, and both hands of the mech have a hole for this Technic piece to go in if you wanted to have the mech hold the hammer in the other hand. Moving on to the bottom of the mech, I do like the big bulky knee pads. I think they correspond well to the shoulders. The design of the feet for this mech are pointed and jagged looking, which again I think adds to the overall earthy feel and design of the mech. There's also a small gray clip on the left leg of the mech, and it can hold Cole's golden katana. Putting Cole inside the mech is rather simple. You pull down the chest piece and there's a couple of studs on the inside for Cole to sit on. Once you have Cole securely fastened, you take that chest piece and you pull it back up, and then he's good to go. And I do think that once Cole is placed inside the mech, he looks rather cool. Again, I love how the minifigure incorporates the same orange and black design as the mech as they go together and blend really well. The mech does come with some pretty good articulation. Both of the shoulders are on ball joints, so they can be lifted up to the side and moved around in a circular motion. However, one thing I am disappointed by is with the new mech pieces LEGO makes, there's no articulation in the elbows. So what that means is the arm of the mech is completely stationary except for in the shoulders. There is some articulation in the waist, however, which is a nice inclusion. The fingers of the mech are also on hinges, which allows for them to be moved up and down. The hips of the mech are also connected by ball joints, so they can be moved out to the side as well as moved backwards and forward. However, just like with the elbows of the mech, I do wish there was some articulation in the knees to give it some more posability. However, on a positive note, I do feel like this makes the mech more durable when kids play with it. There's also a ball joint on the ankle of the mech, so the feet can be moved around as well. I bought this set for its suggested retail price of $20. And overall, I don't regret my purchase. I think both of the minifigures included are very well detailed and have some good quality. And overall, I do like the design of the mech, and I'm impressed with how durable it actually is. Thank you so much for watching my review, and be sure to like the video and subscribe to my channel for more future brick-built reviews. Hey everybody, and welcome to another review, and today we're going to be taking a look at a LEGO Ninjago set. This is Lloyd's Elemental Power Mech. This set comes with 253 pieces and is recommended for ages 7 and up. And we're going to start things off by taking a look at the minifigures that come in the set, starting with Lloyd. I already have a couple of copies of this guy, but it doesn't take away from the fact that this is a really good looking minifigure. I think he has a really detailed chest and leg print, and I love the detail of the sash that wraps around the character's waist. And while I would have liked to have seen some dual molded legs and arm printing on this figure, I don't necessarily think it hurts the overall design. And as we start to make our way around to the back of the minifigure, you can see that he comes with a relatively detailed back print as well. And I do like the detail of the gold lettering found at the top of the back print. I think that's a really cool and neat touch. Another aspect of this figure that I really enjoy is the dual molded hood piece that this character wears. I think the design of the mold that LEGO has created is really strong, and it being dual molded and being two different colors is a really nice touch as well. Lloyd does come with two different facial expressions. The first here depicts him wearing a mask with a very agitated facial expression. And if we spin the figure around to the back, his second facial expression depicts him not wearing a mask and he has a more stern look. Here's what Lloyd looks like when he's wearing his hood and his second facial expression without the mask, and he also comes with two golden katanas as weapons for accessories. The next minifigure we're going to be taking a look at is a first for my collection. This is Nia. And overall, this minifigure is very similar in design to the Lloyd minifigure we just took a look at. However, I do like the printed detail of her red sash. And just like with Lloyd, this figure doesn't come with any dual molded legs or arm printing, but again, I don't think that's necessarily too big of a deal. And as we start to make our way around to the back of Nia, you can see that she does come with a back print, but we'll be taking a little bit of a better look at that once we remove her shoulder pad. But I do like the inclusion of the shoulder pad because it does make her a little bit different from the Lloyd minifigure, and I do think the gold complements her blue design very well. And while she is similar to the Lloyd minifigure in design, I still think this is a pretty good looking minifigure. The gold piece on Nia's back also acts as a sword sheath for her golden katana. And I think this is a really cool design choice, and I think that when the sword is sheathed into the back of the figure, it looks really cool and good overall. Removing the sheath in Nia's mask, we get a good look at her second facial expression as well as her detailed back print. And again, I really like that gold lettering printing found at the top of the back of the figure. And as we make our way back to the front of the figure, we get a better look at her second facial expression, which depicts her wearing her mask. Lastly, here's a quick look at Nia when she has her other facial expression with the hood on, and I do like the design choice of her beauty mark being visible through the hood. The last minifigure that is included in this set is Cinder, which is personally my favorite out of the three minifigures that are included in this set. I think Cinder has a very good and detailed chest and leg print, and I like how they're lined up perfectly, moving from one piece to the next. I also like the fur collar piece that is included with this minifigure, as I feel like it complements Cinder's design very well and overall just makes the minifigure a little bit more interesting to look at. And as we start to make our way to the back of this minifigure, you can see a relatively detailed back print, which we'll be taking a better look at once we remove the fur collar. I also like the overall shape and design of Cinder's hairpiece that is included, as I feel like it's a relatively strong design with a lot of textured detail on it. And it does make me wish that the Nia and Lloyd minifigures came with their hairpieces as well. Removing his hairpiece and fur collar, we get a good look at his first facial expression, which depicts him being a little bit more stern. And as we start to make our way around to the back of the minifigure, we can get a good look at that awesome detailed back print as well as his second facial expression, which depicts him wearing a mask. Cinder also comes with this really cool sword as an accessory, and I do like its overall design, and I think it's a great inclusion to the minifigure. With all the minifigures out of the way, we're finally ready to talk about the main build that is included in this set, which is Lloyd's Elemental Power Mech. And I think overall this mech has a really strong design and a lot of really cool elements that make it unique to its overall appearance. Found at the top of the mech is a very simple yet effective samurai helmet build that is a really cool design choice in my opinion. Found at the center of the mech is this really nice circular printed piece that depicts a dragon's head that has a really cool design on it. I do think that the arm design for the mech is done relatively well. I do like the mix of green, black, gold, and red, as well as these transparent green pieces coming out of the arms of the mech, which I assume is meant to represent energy, which is Lloyd's element. The mech also comes with two swords as weapons. The sword that we're taking a look at first is the larger of the two, and it also has a tassel at the end. I also like this little bit of extra detail of this design found at the bottom of the blade. I think that's a really cool and neat touch. The second sword is a lot smaller and not as interesting to look at in my opinion, and personally I would have liked to have seen this mech have two of the larger swords. Found on the hands of the mech are two Technic holes that you can attach the sword with thanks to those Technic pieces that are sticking out of the swords themselves. It's a relatively straightforward and simple process, and once the swords are attached, they're not going to be going anywhere as they have a really strong connection. Another nice feature about this mech is the fingers have some articulation in them, so once you have the blade placed in, you can wrap the fingers around the handle. I do think that the design of the legs for this mech are done relatively well. However, I do wish there was a little bit more bulkiness on the bottom half of the leg right before the foot. This is a relatively minor complaint, and I also wish that there was a little bit more red on the bottom half of the leg as well. If we take a close look at the hips, you can see that there are clips found on both sides of the mech, and their purpose is to hold Lloyd's golden katanas. Placing the Lloyd minifigure into the mech is a relatively simple process. The samurai helmet can be lifted up and you can pull the chest piece down. This gives you plenty of room to grab your Lloyd minifigure and place him inside. Once you have him placed inside, you take the chest piece and raise it up, and then you can lower the helmet back down. And I do like how Lloyd looks once he's placed inside the mech. I feel like it's a relatively nice and neat look. And like I said before, I do like the samurai helmet and how it kind of rests right above his head. The mech does come with a pretty decent amount of range of motion. The shoulders are both on ball joints, which allows for them to be lifted up and rotated all around. And I do feel like that this is a necessary joint for the set to have for creative play for kids, as well as posability for collectors who want to display this mech on their shelf. Unfortunately, this mech does use the newer type of arms that LEGO has been using for the past couple years, so there's no articulation in the elbow. However, like I said earlier, the mech does come with some articulation in the fingers, which can make holding the sword a little bit more believable and realistic. Now moving on to the lower half of the mech, both of the legs are on ball joints, which allows for the legs to be rotated out to the side as well as forward and backwards. Having this articulation, of course, again, I think is necessary for posability and creative play for kids. However, I'm not as critical as the legs not having any knee range of motion because it does make the build a little bit more sturdy. And as you can see, the feet for the mech are also on ball joints, so they can be rotated around as well. And overall, like I said, I think the mech has some pretty decent range of motion. However, I really wish there was some articulation in the elbows. But with this set being primarily designed for kids, having that extra durability I do think is a nice inclusion for the longevity of this set. This set retails for $20, which I do think is a fair price for what you're getting. I do like the design of the mech overall, and while I am disappointed in the limited articulation, I do understand it for the stability and durability of this set. And I think that you're going to be getting 3 pretty good looking minifigures as well. And as always, I want to thank you so much for watching my review, and if you enjoyed the video, consider giving it a like and subscribing to my channel for future brick built reviews. Hey everybody, and welcome to another review on my channel, and today we're going to be taking a look at LEGO Ninjago set number 71807. This is Sora's Elemental Tech Mech. This set comes with 209 pieces and is recommended for ages 7 and up. And we're going to start off this review by taking a look at the minifigures that are included in this set, starting with Sora, who has a really great chest and leg print that I think flows together very well and looks great overall. Sora also has a dark blue mask that is matching the color of her right hand, and if we spin her to the side here, you can see she comes with a golden arm that has some pretty good printed detail on it. And as we make our way around to the back of the figure, you can also see she comes with a very detailed back print, and I also like the character's pink hairpiece as I think it fits her overall color scheme and design very well. There is no printing on the right arm, which is a little bit of a disappointment. I would have liked to have seen a little bit of something there, but overall I do like this figure and I think it looks very good. Removing Sora's hairpiece and mask, we get a good look at her facial expression, which I do think looks very great overall, and I love the inclusion of the gold printing on the face there, and if we spin it around to the back, she comes with an alternate facial expression that has her with her glowing eyes. And she also comes with 2 golden katanas for weapons as accessories. The other minifigure that is included in this set is called the Wolf Mask Claw Warrior, and I have a couple copies of this guy already, and this still is one of my favorite LEGO Ninjago figures that I own. I do like the detail of the chest and the leg print, but my favorite part about this figure has to be the dual molded wolf mask in that dark and light blue color scheme. And as we make our way around to the back of the Wolf Mask Warrior, you can see it also has a good looking back print as well. If I have to give one critique about this figure is I do wish it did have some arm printing for just that little bit of extra detail, but other than that, this is a great looking figure. The Wolf Mask Warrior also comes with 2 different facial expressions, which is always nice to see. This figure also comes with a couple different accessories, the first of which are these gray claws that can attach to the figure's hands. And as we spin the figure around to the back, you can also see that there is this back piece that is made up of various different parts. I'm not 100% sure what this is meant to represent, as I've never seen the LEGO Ninjago show, and yes, I'm aware I put it upside down. But with the 2 minifigures out of the way, we're now ready to talk about the most important part of this set, the tree. All jokes aside, I'm pretty sure that this tree was thrown in just to bump up the piece count, but it is relatively solid for what it's trying to be. I do like the color of the leaves, and you can see that this build also comes with a clear rod that you can attach a figure to have it attacking in the air. Now we're finally ready to talk about the main build that is included in this set, which is Sora's Elemental Tech Mech itself, which I think has a really solid color palette that matches perfectly with the Sora minifigure that it comes with. You can tell that these two definitely belong together based on the color alone. Found at the center of the mech is this printed element that has a dragon's face on it. And I really like the overall flow and consistency with the part usage as well as color for this build. I think they do a good job mixing up the white, blue, and gold with that pink for a little bit of extra color. Another element about this build that I appreciate are the gold armor pieces that are found around the waist of the figure. I think it gives it some much needed bulkiness. Unfortunately, the back of the mech doesn't look nearly as impressive as the front, but I don't think this is going to be a big deal to kids that are going to be playing with this set. The mech does come with 2 different weapons, the first of which we're going to be taking a look at is this golden claw piece here. I do like the piece they use for the blades as well as those 2 pink transparent pieces found near the bottom. The other weapon is this really giant pink shuriken, which is really satisfying to spin around with your finger. I do think it was a little bit of a missed opportunity not having a play feature where the mech can fire the shuriken, but you can see that there's a blue Technic piece found near the bottom. And the purpose of these Technic pieces is they are used to attach the weapons to the mech hands thanks to the hole found in the palm of the mech. And I personally really like this design choice because once the weapons are placed into the hands of the mech, they're not going anywhere. The fingers also have a little bit of articulation so you can make it look like the mech is holding the weapons. And if we take a close look at the back of the arms, you can see that there are these 2 gray clips found on both sides of the mech. And the purpose of these clips is they can be used to hold Sora's golden katanas. This is a feature that these LEGO Ninjago mechs typically have, and I think they're executed well, and it's a great inclusion to the set for extra storage. Putting the Sora minifigure into the mech is relatively simple. You pull down the chest piece, and you take the minifigure and place her inside. Once you have the minifigure in place, you take the chest piece and you pull it up. And I think Sora looks great when she sits inside the mech, and again, her colors flow together very well with the mech overall. As far as articulation goes, the mech does come with a relatively decent amount of it. Both of the shoulders are on ball joints, so the arms can be lifted up and rotated inward or outward. Using the ball joint in the shoulder is a good move in my opinion, as it offers for a wide variety of range of motion and posability. And one of the things that I always mention with these LEGO Ninjago mechs is while I do appreciate the articulation in the shoulder, there is no articulation in the elbow, which of course can limit the amount of poses that you're able to put this set into. The waist of this build does come with some articulation. You're going to see me pick up the mech, and the torso can be rotated left and right. When rotating the mech, the gold blades found on the back of the arms can get in the way, but luckily they're also on ball joints, so they can be moved up and down and rotated around as well. This was a really nice surprise, and I think it was a good move on LEGO's part to allow the pieces to move to get them out of the way. The legs of the mech are also on ball joints, which allows for them to be moved out to the side as well as forward and backwards. You can also see that the armor pieces are on hinges, so they can be moved out of the way as well. The last little bit of articulation we're going to talk about is on the feet. They are also on ball joints, so they can be moved forward and backwards as well as rotated to the side. Unfortunately, just like the arms, there is some articulation missing in the knee, which again can limit the amount of posability you're able to put this build into. Sora's Elemental Tech Mech retails for $20, which I do think is a pretty fair price for what you're getting. You get two really great looking minifigures, and I do like the mech build overall. But with the inclusion of that tree, I do think I would pay upwards of $50 for this amazing looking set. Obviously that was a joke, but I do think the price of the set is rather fair, and thank you so much for watching, and be sure to like and subscribe for more reviews.